with your hand. Oop. Oh my god, dude. This is a pain in the ass. Everything on this fucking motor. Hold the underside of the cam. Press down. Just like that. Alright guys, we got our deck copper coated. It's a little bit of a messy job. You gotta be really careful. There's reasons I decided to do the deck versus just doing the bottom of the gasket. I have the block set up at 0 degrees on the X and Y axis, so the copper coat has a good chance to settle perfectly flat. Like I said, there was a few imperfections on the deck that really didn't essentially justify paying someone to machine the whole block down. Kind of a cost-effective thing. It has nothing to do with compression. I'm not worried about the cylinder head sealing to the block. It's more to help aid sealing the coolant passages and the oil galleys through the cylinder head. May not have even been necessary. It's just one little extra precaution I like to take. Whether it helps or not, it certainly doesn't hurt anything. You can kind of barely see. I've got the torque sequence set up, got the cylinder head ready to go, got the new gasket, got our bolts ready to go, torque wrench, caffeine, engine oil. Got everything I need to put an engine together in Texas. So we're gonna put the cylinder head back on this thing. All right. Make sure we got everything lined up correctly. This is fresh out of the plastic. Copper coat, it's a little tacky, kind of helps hold it in place. Alright, she's on. So 1 and 2, dead center. For a split second there, I thought I had bought the wrong cylinder head bolts. There are 2 different styles on these motors. And I have a very bad habit, as you guys have seen so far in my videos, where I buy things and just assume they're correct until I get ready to install them. I've got the cylinder head bolts in. They're not even tight or hand tight yet. I'm just putting little dabs of oil. I should have done this before I put the bolts in, but it's not that big of a deal. You want to have a little bit of oil underneath the under the shoulder at the bottom of the cap of the bolt. So as you're torquing it, it has a point of lubrication, so it helps aid in in getting a correct torque value. So I'm going to very lightly just run these in on this gun's lowest setting. So the first sequence is 40 Newton meters, which is about 30 foot-pounds. I have oiled the threads. Like I said, I have just a little bit of oil under the heads. Is that even the right one? Oh, well, technically, yes, this is the right one. Kind of working backwards here off the screen. Alright guys, we got our number 1 bolt. We torqued everything down at 30 foot-pounds. Next step is 90 degrees. I'm just going to show you this once. This is pretty basic stuff. I do have a few different, I have a digital torque wrench, and I actually have an angle degreeing device, but my poly drive socket is a little too long for that to be of any use. So I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, and 90 degrees is 90 degrees. So I've got a mark. I just used a Sharpie. Luckily the cylinder head's dry enough. I've just got a Sharpie mark here, and you can just barely kind of see off camera or off angle. There's another mark, but it's basically all we're doing is rotating this 90 degrees. And that's that. Number 8. Alright guys, you can see our first 90 is complete. Again, 30 foot-pounds, 90 degrees, and then 90 degrees, and you're done. Alright, 180. Or, well, 90. 180 in total. Another 180. Kind of tricky by herself. Last one, guys. Yeah, it's not that it's that hard. It's, you don't want to overshoot. You know, it looks like I'm struggling, but I'm just trying to be accurate. And that's it. Cylinder head's torqued on. I just got to install these 4. This is one of the last deals. So hopefully I didn't forget anything. Last up is 8 foot-pounds. I'm sorry, 8 Newton meters. Jeez. Come on. And there we go. She's all together. Got our intake cam just laid here in place. We have our lifter followers installed on the exhaust and intake. Decided to use the exhaust ones off of the old motor. The ones that came with the new cylinder head were kind of mixed matched, different part numbers and different styles. And I figured, well, I know these were working when I pulled the car in here, so I put these in. We did use the ones that came off the cylinder head on the intake side. Those seemed fine. So here's what we got. We got the cylinder heads torqued on. Lifters are in. Intake cam is resting in place. More or less the position needs to be torqued down in. The tricky part about this engine is there are no caps per journal on the camshaft. It is the valve cover itself is machined to act as the entire cap, as a bridge piece to act as a cap for the cylinder head, or for the camshafts. So what we have is, originally the motor was top dead center, number 1. So what we had to do by the book is we had to retard the motor 90 degrees off of top dead center. That puts the pistons pretty much in line with each other inside the block. That is how they want you to, that's the position of the short block to install the camshafts by the book. Then once everything is in and torqued down, then you rotate it back to top dead center and install all of your timing chain components. The good thing about this motor is, with it being a timing chain, the timing chain links are actually marked exactly where they need to line up on the teeth. So there's many different ways different companies use to time engines. Coincidentally, this is for a tram bar, but this particular motor is not set up for that. It uses something like that to lay across horizontally across the deck of the cylinder head. Obviously that's a repurposed cam. I think that maybe the timing belt motors, maybe that's what they use. So that's kind of interesting to see. It's something I really hadn't noticed until now, honestly. Now the other problem is the other exhaust cam doesn't correspond to that at all. That might not even be what that's for, but it certainly looks like it is. But anyway, the interesting thing, and I guess this isn't really interesting, it's to install this, we had to install the exhaust cam in the valve cover slash cam locking bridge, or cam retaining plate, as you would call it. But there's also these little tiny lands. That's where your silicone goes. There is no gasket for this. They go around the spark plug holes, they go around the outer ledge to seal everything. They do not go on these inner lands. I'm not really sure what the point of those are, but they goes all in here. And of course I had to clean all of this out. This is the new one, obviously. So I cheated. I have a zip tie through one of the holes. I forget what these little holes are called, but I used a Sharpie to hold on to the center of the cam, because what we have to do, lay our silicone in a 1.5 millimeter thickness by the book, everywhere it needs to go, to seal the cylinder head, or I'm sorry, to seal the valve cover. And then take the whole assembly with wet silicone, mind you, with tacky silicone, bring it over here to our cylinder head, flip it over, and lower it into place. And then you have to understand something about how a cylinder head works. Is once these cams are torqued down to where they need to be, at no point does this engine have all of the valves in the up position? There is always a set of valves that is under tension, half open, half closed, quarter open, quarter closed on various cylinders. At any point, the engine, no matter what position the engine is in, as you can see, the intake cam is not sitting flush in the journals. It's riding on the follower rollers. So that means as we're torquing this down, it's putting the valve cover in a bind. So we're going to be fighting the tension on the lifters and on the springs on every single valve, on each cam, plus trying to hold our valve cover steady with tacky silicone to make sure we have a good seal. It is going to be very tricky, which is why I'm glad I did the zip tie trick. Also, we have little dowels here, which will certainly help guide us on. So. Not really what I wanted to do. Every single exhaust valve is in the up position, so I guess there is an overlap point. The intakes are not though, but the intake cam might just be off by a little bit, which is no big deal. I mean, I'll just have to get in there and turn it. Also, the other thing is all of these lifters are more or less collapsed, so that once the motor starts turning, we get good oil pressure to the galley and everything. During normal operation, because this is a hydraulic lifter motor, that's probably why all the exhausts are in the down position, because I mean they set these up to where you want to install this with the least amount of resistance. So I mean some motors that just isn't an option. I just wish I could get in there and see every single rocker, those little followers, make sure everything is centered. And I can see most of it. Ah, you just can't see anything. It's so annoying. Let's see my bead. This was a little excessive, but not too bad. Number one, it just hung open a hair. I did all right.